Hello and welcome to the Virtual Speaker Success Summit. I'm your host, Erin Lomanjek, and I'm excited to bring a firecracker to the stage today. Angela Maiers has been listed as one of IBM's top 20 global influencers, named by Forbes as one of the top 5 education leaders to watch in 2017 and 18, and is among Huffington Post's top 100 social media influencers. Angela founded the global movement Choose to Matter in 2014. With a singular mission to help individuals recognize their value and potential contribution to change, both in their own lives and the world. The nonprofit organization grew out of an impassioned response from her TED Talk she gave on the power of 2 simple words that went viral: you matter. An educator for 30 years, Angela shared her message of mattering not only with students and teachers, but with businesses large and small and organizations of all kinds. Her work has been shared in 78,000 classrooms across 100 countries and has rallied more than 1 million children. Her work with industries is finding new ways to ignite geniuses of employees, successfully addressing a 15 trillion employee engagement problem. Angela Maiers is considered one of today's most influential thought leaders in education and transformative thinking. She's the author of 9 books, including highly acclaimed Genius Matters and Classroom Habitudes, futurist, innovator, educator, entrepreneur, change maker. Angela is on a mission to disrupt the status quo and to empower every individual to change their own world, and not just the world for them around them to be better. So I'm excited to have you here. We got so many fun things to talk about. Meeting on Clubhouse, who would have known?
Clubhouse matters. Clubhouse matters, man. It absolutely matters. It absolutely does.
So I'm sure you didn't wake up when you were 5 and say, I'm going to create this movement in the world. So
No.
tell us a little bit about how you got to this place.
So I grew up in a small town of 641 people. And what you learn very quickly in a small town is that everyone matters. No one is just anyone. And then when I left the small town, I thought that, to the big city in Des Moines, Iowa, I still stayed in Iowa. But when I left that, I just had that as my core ethos, my core values, that you never underestimated anyone, that every single member of the community had a contribution to make. And without it, the community wouldn't thrive. And it was more than human kindness. It was more than a nice act. It was a way of seeing not only your place in the world, the ethos and the expectation that you will contribute something, and the community standard of never ever underestimating what a single person, their essentialness. And when I left, I thought, though the rest of the world thinks this too. Everybody thinks everybody matters, right? And then I went into teaching, and my background's neuroscience and linguistics, but I left that because my passion was young people. And I started my education career as a kindergarten teacher. Well, 5-year-olds demand that they matter. Like, you don't get anything done. You meet them outside the classroom and they come up to you and they share their genius in 14 seconds. You know who's the scientist and who's an artist and who's an author and who can dance, and the sense of what I lived as a young person in a small town was lived out in a kindergarten classroom. And as I started moving up the grade levels, I taught every grade from kindergarten to graduate school. I started noticing little by little by little, oh my gosh, something is really wrong. We're not getting community. We're having to force contribution. People are hiding and holding in their genius, and they're not noticing each other. And all of a sudden, you saw the soul and spirit of childhood be sucked out of kids as young as 8 years old. This wasn't happening like at middle school. This is happening like in second grade. We're starting to embrace the status quo and believe that genius is some anomaly when average is. So I'm like, well, this is not okay. And so when I got asked to do the TED Talk, you're asked basically to think about, in 17 minutes, what can you tell the world to change the world? Well, my lived experience is you matter. And I'm not telling you that to motivate you or for you to, feel happy about yourself. You've got friends for that. I'm reminding you that that is your birthright. You came into the world understanding your value, believing that your presence and your person made an impact on other people, and you showed up differently. 5-year-olds show up differently than most human beings in the rest of the world. And we have got to get back to our 5-year-old selves. We've got to get back believing that we matter, believing we have value, and that value is needed by someone else in the room or the world. And that's Clubhouse. That's the ethos of Clubhouse and every successful community out there.
No, this is amazing stuff. I know. So let's talk about your TED Talk, because you did it
Yeah.
on the science of mattering, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about what that means and like how that catapulted you to like, wow, this isn't not just a message. This is now a movement.
A movement, yes, overnight, definitely overnight. My big goal was to like make it through and stay on the red circle. You have to stay on this red carpet and not fall off the stage. So like I had really high, it wasn't an education, it was a business innovation talk. So my message was, I guess, intended for young people. But what I was stunned about is after sort of laying out what the science and practice of mattering is. Mattering isn't just an aspiration, it is an action, and it is a deliberate action. You don't just stumble into significance. So after doing that, I was getting calls from like Wall Street executives and NASA scientists and large corporations, Microsoft and IBM and all these companies. And they're like, and I'm like, did you not get that that was like for kids? But what I realized after that is that this is a human essential need. So I put on my scientist hat and went deep into the neuroscience of mattering. If you think about what made us vulnerable in COVID, it was that our humanity was showcased. We were losing connection and losing a sense of belonging with each other and losing a sense of what it feels like to be seen and heard and valued by others. And we didn't prioritize those human elements. We prioritize, let's just turn on the computer and go as it is, forgetting that, you know what, before you start the content, you need to smile at the people on screen. The reason I'm asking you to be on gallery view is because I want to see you. We need to see each other. So it took on an additional urgency, this idea of significance, because the trends before COVID, this is before COVID, and I'll just give you one stat. One of the largest educational studies done by Harvard analyzed if students believed they were valued in school. And this is not a bad thing about teachers and kids, or teachers and administrators. They're working very hard. 68% of kids came back, this was 2018, saying that they didn't feel they were valued in school. The study that should have been done right after that is if you asked every adult in those children's lives, their from the superintendent to their teacher to the principal to their parents, I believe 100% of them would say, absolutely, Erin is valued. Absolutely, Erin matters. Absolutely, do we miss her when she's gone? So there is this big, what's that word I'm looking for? Assumption. There's an assumption gap. What we assume people know, because mattering is an invisible set of essential needs. Everyone knows you need food, water, shelter, air to survive and thrive. And without it, you can't function even at the basic level. So you are willing to ask a complete stranger or let a complete stranger know that you didn't have sleep last night and you're not really on your game, or that you're hungry, or where the nearest restaurant is. But you are not going to say to somebody, you know what? I don't really feel heard in my relationships. I don't feel valued at work. I don't feel like I matter. And yet every human being every day is asking the same question: do I matter to you? And we assume that our answer is yes, but our assumptions and their perceptions have a very massive gap. I believe if we did that study post-COVID, it would be at pandemic levels, human beings believing that they don't matter, that they're not appreciated. And this isn't just a warm, fuzzy emotion. The economics around human beings not bringing their best self to work or the world are tremendous. They are in the trillions of dollars, lost in productivity, lost in everything from the loyalty to a company and an organization, to complete apathy and giving up, and then of course loss of life.
And I think yeah, you're right. Like we've all been like little lone silos,
Yeah.
without touch, without physical connection,
Yes.
without so many things. And if you don't have a family that you live with inside of, like, how are these people surviving? And they're not, well, maybe they're surviving, but they're not thriving. And
Yep,
this huge,
exactly.
we need connection. And
So
so what you're saying is this is science, that this is based,
simple.
this is as much as you need to eat and drink.
That's right. There's no warm fuzziness in this. So people are like, oh, this is such an inspirational must forget inspiration. This is about survival. This is about survival. So I did an event maybe a couple months ago with the operators on 911. And when they analyzed the 911, what do you call it? First responders, when they analyzed the 911 calls, 90% of them were around mattering. They weren't like, I have a burglar coming, or there's a fire in the back, or I'm scared. They were like, I just wanted to talk to somebody. I just wanted to let somebody know. I just wanted somebody to say, like, how are you? And are you okay? A same study just came out with what people are asking Alexa. We don't just deserve or desire. We need to be seen, to be heard, to be valued and know our value, and to recognize our essentialness. We are wired to contribute. And when we're asked to passively sit there, when we're passed over, when we're not invited to share our thoughts, our feelings, our perspectives, we lose not just our perception of our worth, we actually lose biologically our willingness to be alive, to show up the next day as fierce and as full. And the repercussions of this are profound. That it is the underlying issue in every ailment we face, from apathy to agony.
And it's so funny because, yeah, you don't even know. My husband used to be, well, he was military, and then
Yeah.
he was a security officer for King County. Then he was a 911 operator for 2.
Yes.
And the stress was just
Stress.
too much for him. He couldn't handle it.
Absolutely.
And so and he said there was all these regulars that would just
Yes.
call.
Yep.
Every was,
That's right.
oh, we have their numbers programmed. We know
Right.
the thing. And and so I definitely know that now more than ever, because most people who might be suffering in silence, not
Yes.
feeling they matter right now,
Right.
don't think to call 911.
No, no,
Those
no.
outliers that are like, oh, I should have called somebody. Let's just call
That's
911.
right. But even on a more subtle basis, look at the topics on Clubhouse. Owning your leadership. Do you suffer from imposter syndrome? So we have covered up our basic needs. We're calling being hungry and thirsty and sleep deprived and the breathing different names. So it's not so emotional. It's not so revealing. Human beings don't reveal themselves to the world. We hide almost the essence of who we are, our thoughts, our feelings, our desires, our fears, all of that. So we have to be in environments that invite us to not want to be invisible. And when you smile at somebody or say their name or say these 2 words, you matter. Like if I just say to you, Erin, you matter. You taking time, you inviting me on the stage, you allowing me to share this message with other people, that's different than saying I like you. It's different than saying I love you. These are not only life-changing, conversation changing, they actually change our biology. Just like putting good food and good, drinking enough water every day. It's all about energy input. And people that feel valued and feel appreciated and recognized produce 2 to 5 times more in any context than a counterpart that is not feeling a part of something that matters.
You're right. And I think, especially a lot of times, like with COVID, right? So a lot of people are working from home. There are
Yeah.
only some of these people, and I work in a lot of the tech space. So Microsoft, Amazon, Google,
Yep. Yes.
got all those. And so in there, you have a lot of people who are now working from home, but work was their social.
It was their identity,
It
not
is.
even their social life. Like our identities are so wrapped up into our, not our, we've gotten confused between what is true worth. You matter has a period behind it. You matter, period. It isn't you matter because, or you matter when, or you matter if, or you matter only. You matter, period. You have value as a human being in my presence, beyond what your job is, beyond what your role is, beyond being a mother, beyond being, a partner, a friend, you as a human being. And if we don't get back to the essence, if the pandemic did not wake us up to the vulnerabilities of our humanity, these are the conditions of being human. You can ignore them, you can cover them up, you can write them off, but you will do it at your peril and the peril of everyone you seek to motivate and touch. There's nothing warm fuzzy about this.
No, and I love this because you think about it, like we were saying before, like say the topic of imposter syndrome.
Right.
To put a label on it sounds a lot better, right?
It
So
does.
it's easier to see. But if
That's
I
right.
really say that the internal voice in my head says, who do
Yes.
you think you are?
That's right.
Who are to get out there and be Miss Big
That's right.
teaching other people this stuff, knowing this stuff? Who do you think you are? Most people, and I do this in my seminars
Yeah.
where I have everyone write down, what's that little voice tell you? And
Yeah.
mine is, who do you think you are?
Yes.
And so I write it and I have everyone put it up to their chest and they
Yes.
literally walk around, look at each other, make eye contact, read it, look back up, smile, and go to the next person. You will see so many people that have the same small
Yes.
voice,
Yes.
have the same thing.
It doesn't matter how rich they are, how famous they are. Success is different than significance. And that's why I go back to 5-year-olds. If you look at how secure they are in who they are, it is stunning to be around. So if you ask, think about imposter syndrome with 5-year-olds, they aren't hiding anything. They will demand, my students stand in front of me. Yeah. And they're like, okay, did you not notice? Today I had bangs. Yesterday I did not. You are off your game, lady. Tomorrow I'll let this slip, but tomorrow you better notice. We want somebody to notice us when we come to work. We want somebody, whether it's on screen or not on screen, and you can palpably feel the energy shifting in a room in a matter of seconds. So neuroscientists call these seconds the hijacking of the amygdala. And you can think about it at an individual level, what a smile from even a stranger does. It biologically lifts your spirits. You don't even, you can't avoid it. Try not to smile right now. You can't. Or you can look at it at a systems level. You can look at Disney and Apple. Nothing at Disney is accidental. It is 100% a hijacking of your amygdala. The study of what color does to the energy level, what design does, what sound does, what smell does. Everything is calibrated. So when you walk through the gates of that magic kingdom, you forget about everything else and you feel magical. And if we can apply those neurological principles to frameworks in our lives, and I actually have a framework that does that. It's 20 seconds a day. I call it 252. And what you think about is in the first 2 to 20 seconds of meeting someone and the last 2 to 20 seconds of that experience. So whether it's a class you took, whether it's a webinar, whether it's an all-day event, whether it is whatever the time frame is, the 2 and the 2 represent what neuroscientists call primacy and recency, meaning in the totality of your minutes in the day, to totality of your experience, there are peak moments that matter more than anything else. And those peak moments that get you straight to the heart or the limbic part of your brain are when we meet somebody and greet somebody and how we leave somebody. And if we can put energy and effort and presence in that, it will change the entire experience, even if the middle of it was horrific. We focus so much on the details, so much on the middle, and the brain doesn't even remember it. Even if you're at Disney World, it doesn't remember. And then the 5 is a bonus where you just slow yourself down and you take note of the people in your world and in your life and remind yourself on why they matter and push yourself to tell them. So I actually this is what I actually have it with me all the time. This is my noticing notebook. And every day, and I've done this for 30 years, 5-year-olds taught me this, every day I pick 5 people in my life and I write something that I notice about them that I appreciate, and I send them, I call it a mattergram, you can call it whatever you want. I send them this lasting compliment. I want you to know I notice this and I appreciate this and I value you. And I can't even tell you um, the response from that. It's stunning. Like, and it's simple, but it's simplistic, but it's not simple, if you will.
No, I love this. And I'm going to tell you, you need to create that journal for sale. I'm just saying, I want one.
I know there should be like little prompts in it, like absolute little prompts in it. No,
I'm going to help you create one. I'm just saying, because that needs to be for sale.
true, right? I know. See, I don't, my brain doesn't think about that, but no, you're right. Like everybody needs a noticing notebook and just little prompts to remind you, like, that's why 5-year-olds are so happy. That's why they are so hopeful, because they practice dwelling in awe. They notice and know literally everything. If you've taken a 5-minute walk with a 5-year-old, it's going to be an hour, because they're going to stop every 15 seconds. Did you see that? Did you see that? What about that? Oh, I never saw that before. What about? And we've lost that. In fact, my favorite definition of the word genius is from 1604: the ability to keep the spirit and soul of childhood all the way through adulthood. And individuals that have done that, companies that have done that, that add childlike reminders and childlike elements, that they're absolutely thriving. They're not just they're surviving, they're thriving.
I love this. This is such good stuff. So funny. Yesterday, I was literally on a call with somebody like that's in the summit, who's also, went totally into neuroscience and executive functioning, and
all geeked out.
like we all geeked out. We're like, man, we got to cut this shorter because we just could talk about this all day.
I know.
And I think as a speaker too, like if the thing that I will never be this girl. I'm never going to be the girl that gets on stage, goes behind stage, and you never get to see me. Even if I'm doing events, I literally stop at the bar, restaurants, go to every table, say hi, make conversation, get to know people. And I will tell you, you make more money that way, guys. Like,
I never thought about it from a money perspective, but I love being the greeter. So my first, and I've done this for 25 years as a professional speaker. I absolutely go directly and thank and tell the, whether it's the tech team, whether it's the people putting the tablecloths on the table, the janitorial staff, who's ever there, that I couldn't have done this without you. And that is what people want to hear. That is the deepest driver of human behavior, is for somebody to say, I needed you and I couldn't have done this without you. I said, you're going to allow me to get up there and share this message, knowing that you have my back. That I just said this to a tech team yesterday, that you have my back. And they said, of all the virtual events that we have produced, no one has ever thanked us so authentically and specifically. It's such a simple act. And then my favorite thing to do is be the greeter at the door. Like, not unless there's like a picture of me like out in the hallway, I greet people at the door. I go around to every table in the hall and say, and then I get up on stage, and you already feel like you're a part of the family. You already feel like you have people that have your back on stage. And it's just a beautiful human small town thing to do. Because if you walked into a small town restaurant and people were sitting at the table, you would go say hi to every single one of them. You would acknowledge, smile, nod your head, wave at every single human and say, seeing you here makes this place better, even if you didn't believe it, because it does.
I realize it's kind of a small town thing, because I do it too. I've been, and anytime I go to like a big event, so this is so funny. So Brendan Burchard's event.
Yeah.
1,000 people. I go to the cameraman. I stop and I say, thank you so much. I know what it takes. The people setting up chairs, the people doing the things. I'm like, thank you so much. I know how much it takes. Like, because, and I will say, I got rewarded at Brendan's event. I got to go up and sit in they have a thing where they actually look for people who are spreading joy.
Oh, serious? That's amazing.
They have seats saved that they'll actually escort you up there and be like,
oh my gosh.
Yes, they're for them. Right.
I love it.
And so it's this thing about always noticing, like you said, noticing that's happening. I do that everywhere I go. Even if I'm in the hotel, I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you. So, always, because nobody lets them know that they're doing a good job. planes, I let all the cleaners know.
Right.
Like everywhere I go, I do that. And I've never really thought about it from a small town place, but
Yep,
it really, truly, you never know if that person thought, let's
that's
just
right.
really bad, if that person was thinking about ending their life at the end of the day, because no one
I
knows.
No, you're so right. I use this diagram in my talks. I don't use very many slides, but this one is really important. So if you can imagine just a giant circle with a dot in the middle of it, and I put an arrow and it says, what you see, this is what you see in a person, and the whole circle represents what you don't know about their life. We make all these assumptions about people's lives. And what we don't see is that no matter what our assumptions are, we do not know. We just see that, like I said, people are hidden, we hide. And so it is so important to be thinking about one of the, just this, one of the groups of students to make this case. They actually put billboards on and they walked through the town with the word, do I matter to you? DIMTY question mark. And people would come up and say, like, what does that mean? And they said, every human being is wearing this flashing neon sign that says, do I matter to you? And most of the time they come to the conclusion when they hit their head on the pillow that not as much as I should, not as much as I need to, not as much as I want to. And so my mission is not only to bring awareness to the message and its urgency, but to help develop practices, whether they're organizational system level practices or independent individual practices that bring this reminder to your life. Just like you have built practices in your life around what to eat and how to stay healthy and how much sleep you need, and they vary person to person. But at the end of the day, we can't survive without understanding and knowing that we are essential to other people. And we're losing too much life because of it. Not just suicide, but people not showing up fully when they could be. If someone would have smiled at them or someone would have, it's these simple practices that it's stunning how simple it is to do, but simple is sometimes the hardest thing that we do. We just take it for granted and blow it off and think that complex problems require complex solutions, and they don't. Sometimes they just require a smile and a soft heart.
Or I even thought like we should
Yeah.
just have two matter buttons. Everyone should just wear
Yeah,
one.
they
So that
should.
if you
They
don't
should.
look at like, oh, I felt that, right? Even that. I mean, here's another product I just
Yeah,
created for you.
I know. It's so funny because there's all, like, I get tweets from all over the world. People are building products, t-shirts. So when you have a social movement, it's hard to say, like, can you give me like not the credit, or but like you don't want to like take a percentage of that because it is a part of it growing. And so I have this collection of, so right downtown Denver, a group of students worked with Kaiser Permanente hospitals, and I wrote this manifesto on what are the principles of mattering? What do you have to know and believe and embody so that you are securing your worthiness? And they painted the manifesto on these skyscrapers. And there's some cities that have it on billboards, there's schools and buildings that have like painted the manifesto on their steps, and it's all over. And there's such joy and humility in seeing that, because I know that every single day somebody's going to walk through that hospital building, or somebody's going to drive down that highway, or somebody's going to see that flashing sign in front of the building saying, do you know you matter? And there will be a life changed, a life saved from that. And that's, yeah, that keeps me waking up every single day. It also keeps me up at night.
Completely, because then you're like, and here's the thing,
Yeah,
guys. When you have a movement, you got to be able to fund it. Like I say, you
that's
cannot
right.
be a lighthouse to the
I,
world. Cannot
I,
keep your own lights
I
on.
keep the electricity on. That's so good. So good. Yes, absolutely.
So I know that while you're watching this, I know we're all feeling called, all feeling moved. We're all contributors. Like one of the reasons, guys, I wake up every day to do what
Yeah,
I do is
absolutely.
I want to help people that have a message get out there and change the world. I know not just my message, not just my voice can do that. That if I help other amazing people, as we sit here with like Angela and all the people on the summit, if I help them make a lot of money, nonprofits, schools,
Yep.
wells are built. All these things are funded because when you give servants hearts a
That's
lot of
right.
money, we give back. And
That's
so
right.
one of the things we're doing during the summit is asking you to give back, for you to help fund this. So tell us a little bit about how
Yeah.
you're actually doing this with kids too, and how they're
Yeah.
change makers, and how we can be a part of helping kids learn how
Yes.
to do this stuff, entrepreneurship, plus getting out there speaking. I'd love to teach kids more speaking stuff
Yeah.
and
Yes. Absolutely.
get them out there to actually make a movement and
Yeah.
for them to feel empowered to change the world. Kids want to help. A 13-year-old has been an
Totally.
entrepreneur since he was
Yep.
10.
That's
They
right.
want to contribute, but they don't know how. And they think,
Right.
oh, it's only money. Maybe my parents donate money. My family, we give back. We do service projects all the time.
That's
And so
right.
kids know that time and money are things you can do, right?
Absolutely.
And so you're giving them the opportunity. So tell people about the things you're working on with
Yeah.
kids.
So the only like mass group of human beings that I've ever shared this message with that believed me were young people. And they not only came to me and said, thank you for reminding us that we matter. Now, what do we do? And I mean, I've been in education 33 years, and I have never, ever witnessed a generation like this. I mean, when I was 5 years old, I was not thinking of changing the world. I really wasn't. But 5-year-olds today they are connected, they have access, and they have community. And I think the other factor is they see impossible being defied every day. So they don't understand what impossible even means. So they are the ones who have reached out. Groups of young people have reached out and said, our city is suffering, our school is suffering, our community is suffering, and they don't feel like they matter, and we want to change that. And they came up with the descriptor of ambassadors. We want to be out there, boots on the ground, moving this message forward. And so for the last 5 years, that's who I've been working with. I've been bringing groups of children, groups of student change makers who picked themselves. And that's what's really important, because I can't make you feel like you matter. I can invite you, I can create the conditions that remind you and reinforce to you your value. But ultimately, you have to pick yourself. You have to say, I matter, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to be there. And I don't know how I'm going to be used or what my genius is going to be oriented for, but I'm here and I'm committed. And that is who shows up at these boot camps. And so we just call them change making boot camps. I give kids 48 hours to be together, to learn each other, to value each other, to leverage collective genius towards something bigger that breaks their heart, that's in their world. So that could be their community, that could be their city, that could be the country, that could be the globe. Then what I do is just spread their message and share their genius with the world so that it invites other people to collaborate with them. I usually see about 30,000 students a year, and they have not only transformed their schools, they have transformed entire cities, entire communities. One of the groups of change makers that sort of first started to ignite the attention of what kids are capable of was only 29 kids that reached out. And in a span of 3 years, had the mayor declaring that their city was the first city that chose to matter. They impacted every business, every industry, every sector. They brought, they're right on the border, so they brought individuals from Mexico and US together in conversations that adults have been trying to get, and they activated it just like that because they are not messing around. They don't have business plans. They don't have like, let's have a meeting about this, and 5 weeks later, let's convene.
I don't
The
have
meeting,
emails about it
yeah.
either.
Oh, they are action oriented, that at a level, like if you're like, oh, we really kind of need a website for that, they're over in the corner, literally designing it, ready to launch it by Tuesday. So it is stunning. So they are the deputies of this. They are the ambassadors. I'm just their voice. I'm just a conduit for their voice and messenger. But this is their movement. They are the ones who stepped up. They are the ones that are bringing it to college campuses, to elementary campuses. It is stunning. There's no words to describe watching these young change makers in action. It's breathtaking. It takes my breath away, literally. thinking about it. So what Choose to Matter does is support them. And we've supported them before in live events. We've connected them with organizations that can partner with them or put them in front of people to launch whatever their innovation ideas are, or put them in collaboration with the actual business owners that they could add value to. Basically just got out of their way. Like my job, I feel, is to help like get adults out of their way and put them at the center of the change making process, not even just to give them a seat at the table. They are the table. And then we invite adults to join to join the table as well. So not being able to do live events, I'm thinking about how we do this with technology and through technology. And we need staff and infrastructure and different kinds of support than we did during the live events. And so that's what Choose to Matter is committed to.
I love that. So
Yeah.
I want you all to know there's a donate button below. We're going to make sure that there's some funds donated. And I really I want this to go big because I think that every child does need to know that they matter. And
Yes.
we can help school shootings shut down, like not happen. We can have like less suicides. There's so many things that can be
Right.
eradicated from this itself. So we wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to donate. We would love to have your donations so that we can get this funded. I'm also, in the planning modes, we have some set dates that I'm going to help, sit down and kind of map some of this out and really make this message take off, because I know that this movement can change the world and change children's lives, people's lives all over the world.
Right.
Now more than ever. And so I'm committed to that as well. I know you have a freebie here too. Like you have the class for entrepreneurship. So tell us a little bit about this class that you have.
Yeah. So part of sustaining, because when the students first came, and I just wanted to give them the knowledge that they could change the world. I actually wasn't expecting them to like launch a nonprofit or pass a law or all the things that they have done over and over. And what I felt I started learning after, I think, the first 10 events and seeing what they're capable of if we really showcase to them that they mattered and that they were needed by the world. There's a business to this. There's infrastructure underneath it. An idea is not enough. Rallying a community is not enough. So all of this subset of skills and mindsets, from how to speak calmly and collectively, how to debate an issue when people push back, how to put your ideas in a pitch deck, which I still struggle with, how to approach whether you're working with a nonprofit or a not nonprofit. What is media's role in it? What's social media's role? What are your writing skills? What are your speaking skills? What are your presentation skills? That's all a part of being a mission-driven leader. And it is not enough to have an idea or a love for the topic. There's a whole business entrepreneurial side. It doesn't mean they have to launch a nonprofit or they have to launch a business, but the skill set of how to sustain the idea, how to support the idea, how to get people around the idea that you had, is what is long-term success. And that's what actually gives, I guess, the world. Harvard Business Review did a piece that I put out this morning on how our kids aren't prepared for the world and workforce. Well, they are, if they're a part of change making. They absolutely are, in a way. Even more than formalized education, because taking action requires courage, it requires perseverance, it requires ingenuity and agility, and it requires a whole set of skills and learning and mindset that if we equipped children with early, like I work with kids as young as 5 years old, they are the fiercest, and start navigating and nurturing the skill sets that they already have. If we did that, we would not have a creativity crisis, an entrepreneurship crisis, a crisis of work in the world. We would have kids developed, ready to contribute and participate in the creation of the world, and not just the acceptance of what it is right now. I think so, even beyond the change-making aspect of it, the leadership, entrepreneurship, being exposed to people around them, surrounded, that moved forth something that matters, is really critical to them, whether it is a business, a small business, being a part of a company, launching something. it's a whole learning process that changes you. You cannot get it from a book. You must get it from experiencing it, and having a network of people around you that when you fall down, they're going to tell you to get right back up, because the world needs you. Get right back up and deal with that pain as just a part of the process of moving forward something important.
What I want to ask you the last question that
Yeah.
I ask everybody here, and it's about your future self. So if I was to bring your future self to you here
Mm,
today, what advice would she give you?
mm. My future self would say I think the most important thing I say to kids, but any individual, is you are enough. As a recovering perfectionist that was perfectly suited to do everything in school, that I was that kid in the front, that irritating, perfect child. And it strangled me. It strangled who I could be and what I believed I was capable of, because I was following, even going to medical school, as proud as I am about what that journey was. Wasn't passionate. I was not born to be a doctor. I was born to be an educator and a leader. And so if I knew that I was enough and I was secure in who I am, I would have done things different. I don't regret anything, but that is what I want. You matter isn't, it's a period at the end. You matter, period. Who you are is enough. You don't have to do this or that or prove this or that and then say, oh, because of that, I am worthy. You are worthy right now. And I wish I would have known that. I wish I would have known that earlier.
I love this. This always brings out the great nuggets out of all of this. So
Yeah.
get your get the freebie down below, the class for
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. It's an online
Yes.
course. You'll have access to it right away. And then don't forget, there are people out there that need to know that they matter. So
Right.
donate below so that we can
Right.
help gain this message and get it out to bigger and bigger areas, to help more kids, to help more first responders, all of the above. This is an important message. And so I really wanted to bring that to the forefront for all of you. And we
Yeah.
all know that we all have a way that we give back. And so this is just one way I'm asking you. If you're here, you're participating. I put a lot of work into this event.
You did. You matter. You do. This matters, this conversation. And I just want to leave, because I always do that, leave with the challenge, because I don't want you to just believe me. This isn't about, listening to a speaker, being inspired. This is about action. So in the next 24 hours to 48 hours, I want you to take an action and pick 3 people in your life. And whether you text them, whether you email them, whether you call them, whether you, send a post, just share those 2 words with them and see what the reaction is. Not just in them, the receiver, but in you as the giver. And now imagine that spread. That's the foundation of hope. Hope is not elusive. It is an action. It is not an emotion. So spread some hope. Tell people that they matter.
I love this. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all the things and how you're showing up in the world, and you and your message matters, love. I'm so
Thank you.
excited to be in the sphere
Yeah.
of all this greatness.
And thank God for Clubhouse, because we would not be able to do this and do what we're doing and this whole summit possible at this level without Clubhouse and social media. So I'm absolutely grateful for that community.
And I forgot, you have a free
Yeah.
Clubhouse guide down below as well.
I
Don't
do.
forget that. I almost
Yes, because I'm so passionate about you finding your community, you finding that little small town in this big global world, where you'll be able to contribute every single day. Your genius, and who you'll meet because of that will astound you. So I made a guide for Android and I made a guide for iOS, just the logistics, like to get you on so that you can get right, like it's your move-in guide to this little small town. And here you go. And you just welcome to the barbecue.
No, I think this has been great. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much, Angela, for everything you're doing in the world. I'm excited to be a part of everything you're doing. And you won't want to miss the next session, guys. And we'll see you on stage.
Yes. Bye, everybody.